welcome Nuke. You're the first guest of this first ever Bloodfang podcast.
Thank you so much. I feel very honored that you
Yeah.
chose me.
Yeah. I don't know if it's gonna be that comfortable. I mean, it's named the Jerry Springer Show or something. I haven't really decided, but I went for the Jerry Springer name. I mean, it might be a trap, man.
Yeah, only time will tell, I guess. If you don't have a camera crew following me around, I'm happy, I guess.
Yeah, man. Man, in 5 minutes there's gonna be midgets jumping into the room.
That would
two
be
two
fine
of
with me,
them are
though. That
gonna
would be
claim to
okay.
be your old lover, you know?
It would fit, though.
Yeah, so who are you, Nuke?
Okay, so my in-game name is Nuke, or now Nuked. I had to swap mains because we were lacking trank shots, sadly. Um, I actually, like, I'm 26 years old. I have played this game since I was 11. Back then, of course, I couldn't really rate. Only item I've gotten back then, like I was in one molten core and got the Night Slayer belt, and that's it. And yeah, I played classic, like vanilla back then, TBC. My peak was in Wrath of the Lich King. I was in a pretty competitive guild, also in TBC to be fair, but Wrath of the Lich King was even more competitive. I stopped with Cataclysm because I just didn't enjoy the add-on. Played Mist of Pandaria a lot, but was focused on PvP, rated BGs especially. And afterwards, I never touched the game a lot. Like I played for a few months here and there, tried the new add-ons out, and didn't really enjoy it anymore. Mythic Plus and all of that is not like was fun to some degree, but it just got much. You would have to spend all day preparing and like finding out strats and trying out and whatever if you wanted to push like top notch, and that I didn't enjoy it myself. So I was pretty happy when Classic was announced. I initially started out in Firemore on the server and leveled to I think 32 before I swapped. Like I was 32 after 2 or 3 days, and swapped then because I started playing with my older brother and with around like 5, 6 real life friends.
Oh
Excuse me.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and the queues were too much. Like I was on vacation when the game came out. Like I had 3 or 4 weeks vacation, and I could play all around, like around the clock. So my goal was to hit level 60 as one of the first. I was actually in the guild ambitions. They probably don't remember me because I stopped playing at 32. But I was in the guild ambitions. That is now on Bloodfang as well. And yeah, I quit when the queues got, I think, at one point to 24k or whatever, and people would have had to wait 17 hours to log in. That has just been too much, and I told my friends and my brother, let's swap servers, let's restart again. And then I started out on Bloodfang. I leveled a rogue again because I was pretty keen on playing like open world PvP, and I watched a lot of like Grim, um, Peekaboo, and Wreckful like throughout gaming, and that was something that I was always very drawn to. Turned out open world PvP in Classic is not really nice. Like I personally don't really enjoy it,
Yeah, I agree with you. I
but
agree. It's basically PvE. Like you go
yeah,
in with an advantage, and when it's a fair fight, people don't seem to enjoy it so much.
yeah, absolutely. Like I mean, the separ bombing and stuff like that is really fun. I think like what Turtles, for example, are doing, or what Unity is doing, is really fun. I think it's a good thing for the server as well. Like it's you always have to be on your feet,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I prefer that to the spelling.
for sure, for sure. But like yeah, the one-on-ones are not really happening. I think at least. So yeah, that's it. Like I started out on the server. I was in the guild Invincible. Was a huge leveling guild when the server started out. The 60s, that like the freshly linked 60s, left the guild and created the guild Nightshade, I believe. Not Nightshades,
Yes,
Nightshade.
I remember them.
And they were really good, nice people as well. But I became Guildmaster then. Like the first Guildmaster quit because like at level 12 couldn't play the game anymore. The other Guildmaster gave everyone the permissions to invite, and we had like, I don't know, a few hundred people, like 700, I believe, if that's possible, like a high number in the guild. And um, I talked to him. He didn't know what to do. Like he quit the game as well at a certain level, and he asked me if I would want to take over. And I was like, yeah, sure. Told the guys, okay, guys, I would like to turn Invincible into a raiding guild, so we don't have our level 60s leave all the time, and we can offer them something as well. People were on board with it, but I mean, if you can join a guild that is raiding the first ID possible or the second ID, of course you're gonna join that if you want to raid and you want to get an advantage. So it was pretty harsh. And then they opened up the transfers to Bloodfang, and yeah, I'm not sure. I don't want to like talk through all the points that you might want to ask, but
But
that's basically it. Like I will stop there. I became Guildmaster of Invincible and wanted to turn it into a leveling guild.
yeah, long story
And
short, you stole a guild from a poor level 12 guy,
yeah,
kidnapped all the members, and forced them
yeah,
to do Molten Core.
that is true. Yeah, you can put it like that. Yeah.
Well,
But we didn't rate in Invincible. Like we were never in a position where we were able to rate, and that's why like we had a lot of high level people, but not that many 60s. I think we were when we then finally merged into Madhouse, we brought them like of 15 people, I believe, like 60s, and that was basically it.
Okay, so you actually re-rolled on Bloodfang rather than transferring here.
Yeah. That was a little bit yikes, because they opened the transfers after I restarted. Like I hit the same level, I think, actually. Like I was 33 with the new rogue as well, and then they announced that they would open up the transfers. So I I could have been higher level. I could maybe have been level 60 or 50 at that point, with the one rogue I've created initially. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know at that time, and it wasn't really a big deal. So everything turned out okay, I guess.
How was it? Was it a big change, like when they opened the transfers? Because I imagine it like a bunch of level 60s come just flowing into the server.
Yeah, I mean, I think initially 3 guilds transferred to the server. One of the guilds was Madhouse. I think they came from Gehennas, I'm not sure, but it just gave more people the opportunity because they like Gehennas, Firemaw. I'm not sure the other servers, but they are more hardcore oriented. Like streamers started their PS0 or Pshero, whatever how you pronounce his name, started on Firemaw as well, I believe, and like the more pushy people were drawn to to these servers. So once they open up the transfers, um, yeah, we have gotten a lot of good players to the server, and we're able to like start raiding faster because of it, I believe.
Okay, so from Nightshades, eventually you moved on to Madhouse. Was that a merger between the guilds?
Um, like we didn't really have Nightshades. Like Nightshades was created by one of the first people that hit level 60. Um, and the people just moved into that guild that hit 60 in order to be able to raid. Um, the merge came about like one night I saw the guildmaster of Madhouse standing in Orgrimmar with MC items already, like Molten Core items, and at that point I think I'm not even sure if any other guild really cleared Molten Core. Might be Nightshade. I don't want to like say anything wrong there, but it was an impressive sight. The guy, so I messaged him and we came to talk, and after I think a few days, like back and forth, we were like, okay, let's do a merge. Let's get some of our leadership into the leadership. Let's talk before, like how do we view the game? What goals do we want to achieve? Um, how are we going to do it? Are we going to get everyone from Invincible into Madhouse? Are we going to create a new guild? Are you going to join Invincible? Whatever. And we agreed on that. For example, I have gotten I think we called it officer back then, an officer role, and one other guy got an officer role, and we moved into Madhouse because they were very like insanely nice guys. We were on the same page. We had the same goals and ambitions in this game, so it seemed like a good fit to
How,
do, and
what,
then we kind of did.
which guys were the Madhouse leadership by them?
It was the Guildmaster was Belzor. It's
Yeah.
was the main tank we had in Madhouse. Then his real life friends. Can name just a few names. Like I don't have to. I think name all the names, but Jisuel, Mother Teresa, Uncle Festa. Like it's a no. It's a group of his real life friends, and that was also their initial idea, I believe. That they wanted to just play as a group of friends, enjoy the game for what it is, do some fun stuff, and yeah, raid. I guess just raid and enjoy the game for what it is.
Okay, so you were with them basically from the second lockout then.
Oof. I'm not exactly sure when we create, like when we merge into Madhouse, or like if it was the first, second, or third lockout. I can't tell you. I'm sorry about that, but pretty early on, I would say, like we had our first clear. I think I might maybe be able to send you some screenshots for
Alright,
from
cool.
our first clear. I hope I can find them, so you could maybe use them as well. But yeah, we cleared it pretty fast. Like we were, I think, not the first, but one of the first guilds to clear Molten Core.
Yeah, and I remember you were quite a powerhouse in the phase 1 and phase 2 as well.
Yeah, and the reason I believe is why we were so strong is that, like, the initial plan, of course, was to have one raiding group, um, have the players there, and then just raid. But more and more people dinked level 60, and we were then in a position where we were like, okay, what are we going to do with all the people? Because we were an insane amount of players. I mean, a lot of people played Classic when it launched, and a lot of people were really into it. So they were keen on raiding. And then we talked about it and we discussed it in the leadership then. And we chose to have a second raid group. And of course, having a second raid group gives you the opportunity to, if you do a speed run, to get the best possible setup together. And that might be like the edge you have over a consistent, like, one group of like maybe 4 mages, 6 warriors, 6 rogues, whatever. If you can go in, for example, now into Blackwing Lair, or as we have done then into Molten Core, with a higher number of geared warriors, geared rogues, and geared shamans, then you probably are going to have an edge over the unnormal raid com, so to speak. So that was always the philosophy. That's always what we wanted to do. And yeah, in phase 1 and 2, we were pretty successful at it. I think we were back then only beaten by Epic Fabrican, which is a great guild. Like they have insanely good players there, so we expected that. And I think, to be fair, they didn't even go into that speedrun with such a melee heavy comp that we did. So it's even more impressive that they beat us. But yeah, that was why we were so successful, I believe. We had just a bigger player pool to choose from in order to get the speedruns going a little bit smoother and more like the hardcore guilds are doing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think it was only you and Epic Fabrican actually doing like legitimate speedruns. And as you said, I mean, composition is a big part of the speedrun. By then, just getting together like a raid team was a big thing for people.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, It is a lot of hassle to manage two raiding groups, but we just saw the benefit. Like on one side, you have groups of people that want to play together and stick together. For example, the Swedish crew in the leadership was always prior one for me personally, and I think for them as well, to be able to play together and enjoy the game together and relive the moments from 15 years ago. And with two raid groups, you just have the opportunity to ensure that people can play together, and also, like as I said, have the best possible setup for a speed run if people are interested in it. Like sometimes they weren't, sometimes we didn't do a speed run because people were like burned out with it. It's a lot of gold you have to invest and a lot of time you have to spend preparing everything. Same for my guild now, and yeah, it it worked out great. Like I think we had a really great guild and a great run.
Yeah, yeah. Looking at the logs now from the speedrun, I'm talking about from 4th of February. It
Yeah,
was 43 minutes, I believe, and that
yeah,
was the second fastest time on the server.
yeah, yeah.
And for being back then, you were quite stacked. It was 5 melee groups, which was quite impressive. I mean, back then, even choosing to level up your first character as a warrior, it's quite a bit risky in my opinion, because you have much more opportunities if you would go for a hunter or something that you could easily gather resources with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were lucky that we had so many really good melees in the guild. Like the Swedish crew, Kolf, Nolnol, as melees, Svulle, Toskagen. These were insanely good players. Then we had some of our players as well in the run. Let me actually open it up. I mean, yeah, Kawabanga, Metroom, Zelendil, Luke, um, Hank the Tank, Lensu, I'll Eat You, Mao, Shivan, Titanium, Raw, Sneko, Bezoar. That these are like, it was an 18, man. It's like looking back at it, oof, we were insanely stacked, and also our casters were insanely good as well.
Yeah,
Like looking at the logs now, these are still like the players who play the game and were in that speed run are still, in my opinion at least, the best players we have on the server, like with the best players of the server. And yeah, we were insanely lucky that we got so many good players into the guild. And I mean, what I've realized now as well, like I mean, it's pretty clear, but having a good speedrun also attracts a lot of good players, because if you clear the content and they know that you give the people the opportunity to go ham, they want to be a part of it.
of course, of course. It's way more fun that way. I mean, if you're restricted to doing like only 500 DPS because your tank can't handle it, well,
Yeah.
for me, I'd rather go look for another guild then.
Yeah, I mean, what I some people have that mindset as well, yeah. But a lot of people are really loyal to their guild, and that's also nice to see. You always have the people who are just looking for the best guild they can get in, and that's fine as well. Like, I don't blame anyone with that attitude, because if you want to spend the time trying to play the game to the fullest, then for sure, like there are guilds that give you the opportunity to raid with like 39 other completely like-minded people. Just look at Progress, Guzzy, um, what is the other, the Horde guild called again? Onslaught, yeah, Onslaught.
Yep.
If you join a guild like that, you just know that, okay, I have to be, I have to bring my A game, my absolute A game. I can't make mistakes, otherwise I get replaced instantly. And there are some guilds like that. On the other hand, you have some more social oriented guilds, and we always try to find a middle ground between that. Like, um, we like performance, like straight up having good logs is nice to have, but that's not what we initially focused on. And I think we had something really great back then. I
Yeah.
really do.
Well, one thing that's really noticeable about this run, titanium dies from Kawabanga's cleave. on
Yeah.
Lucifron. Man, and
That's the
you managed to still have them in your team to this day.
yeah.
They should
mm.
hate each other, man.
Maybe they do. I don't know. No, but it's yeah, stuff like this happens. It just straight up happens. It still happens. We had one of our best, if not the best, Fury DPS warrior we have die on our speed run we did in Blackwing Lair. Like on the first boss, came fully prepared, helped everyone getting summoned and all that stuff, and then he just straight up dies. And that's a bummer, of course. That really bumps people out. Like that might cause people to quit the game, to take breaks, or to be really sad or mad. But I mean, in the end, we all shouldn't forget that it's a game. It's nice to be the best you can be, and it's of course nice to have a really high standing on the server. But in the end, if something like that gets you to the point that you want to like rage at others or hold a grudge, like in that moment I completely understand if you're really mad at someone, but holding a grudge over something like that, if it's not that intentional, I don't believe it was in a speed run especially, um yeah, it's just it happens. Like you could also blame the priests for not dispelling fast enough, I guess. If it was on Lucifron, I'm not sure where it was, but I guess it was.
Yeah, it was on Lucifron.
Then the healers. I see. Epion, Sophie, Hextra, ganked. 3 of them are still in our guild, so they are to blame, I guess.
Yeah, maybe that's where they targeted their hate instead of at each other. The
Yeah,
poor
maybe,
warriors.
maybe. Yeah, but it was fine. Like it was a good accomplishment, and we were all really hyped. Like we screamed. We were really happy with how we performed, and that's what the game is about. Like looking back at it, it's not about who got what item. Did you get DFT? Did you get Perdition's Blade or Onslaught Girdle? It's more about like these moments where you have 39 other people and you achieve something together. You strive for a goal and you achieve it. That's insanely nice, I think, and that's why I personally at least play the game.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So yeah.
So what was it like? Like, how did you become an officer of Madhouse, or were you even Guildmaster for a while?
Okay, so I became an officer because I was GM of Invincible. So I approached Belzor back then. I don't want to say anything wrong, but I don't really think I demanded anything. Like I just wanted to get into an environment where we would be able to raid, but might be wrong. Like this might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, Belzor was like, yeah, but you should have a prominent role in the guild because you are bringing, let's say, 200 people into the guild, so they know you, they are used to you. So, yeah, you should at least like you should have a role that is fine. Like you're representing your old guild, and you are integrating them into Madhouse and whatnot. So I became an officer, and like we created a Discord then, or yeah, I think we created a new Discord then. We used the DKP system. We had a bot and everything. Like I was very focused on organizing and structuring the guild, and Berzur was like the leader and makes the decisions, like listens to the officers, of course, but makes the decisions in the end. And he's really good at it. Like he's a very how do you say it? Um, like he's a very very strong leader, so to speak. Like he when he says something that it should be done this way, people don't really question it and trusted him a lot. So yeah, that was like the mix. And the leadership, like his real life friends, they were class leaders. Norma, for example, helped me a lot with Discord, like the DKP tracking for one group. I did the other group, and the others helped a lot. Like Mother Teresa also like dealt with HR stuff, and
HR.
yeah, yeah. I mean, in the end, it's like a company, I guess, that you're running. So if you structure it correctly, I think there is less friction going on, and you ensure that everything is able to like last as long as possible. Because if you don't have a good structure for your guild, that's it, that's my belief, then sooner or later you are going to run into problems. Like if your loot
Mm.
system is unclear, not transparent, and the people just know that 5 people decide and they don't know why. um, and we had that for a while in Madhouse as well, which was not that great. It can become a big problem, and so we try to make it as transparent and open and social as possible for everyone, and we achieved that. I believe we got that right.
Okay, that's good to hear. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
I mean,
oh, sorry.
you could possibly like try to create some drama out of it as well. I mean, there's always some folks that aren't too happy. I mean, you did
Yeah,
have some loss of players. I think Mother Teresa is in Norrsken right now,
yeah, yeah,
and brought with him 007 and a couple of other guys. I think there were like 7, 8 guys that left Madhouse for Norrsken.
yeah. um they left the guild at one point. I think, if I remember correctly, the reason was that they like the initial plan they had, like playing in that group and um playing with like being able to raid in your mother tongue and enjoy the game for the game it is, and not just looking at okay, we have to become faster and faster. I think that just in the end turned them away. I offered to back then I offered to like go out, because I felt responsible for that, because
To quit as an officer.
yeah, quit as an officer, or like more like giving them the opportunity to stick in the guild and in their group, because I mean it was their guild. They created it together and they discussed the names probably and came up with a system and all of that, and then I came in and we reorganized stuff. So I felt kind of responsible for like having them, like putting them in a place where they feel like this is not what they have initially planned with the guild. And I hope I wasn't the cause, but like the changes we did, I mean everything was done together and we discussed it. But yeah, in the end it probably wasn't just like what they intended to do in the game, and it's completely fine. Like it's completely okay. It was completely fine back then. Like there was no bad blood or ill will from my side to anyone. We are still, I have a really good contact. I love the guys to death. Insanely nice guys. But back then it just simply didn't work out. They I can't pronounce the name. I'm sorry, of that guild. I'm very sorry. And I don't even want to butcher it. So the guild they're in now gave them the opportunity to just, I think, do what they um, wanted to do back then. And yeah, I hope they are happy. And it was a big hit. These were our best players by far. Um, I don't want to shit on the guys who were in the guild as well, but they were just insanely good players, very reliable as well, came prepared, like just good people to have in the guild, and good raiders, and they were also a really good leadership. Everyone brought their own like different viewpoints. The discussions were always non-toxic, like it was always good. When we talked in a group together, there might have been some misunderstandings when not everyone was involved in the process. That always causes friction, of course. But like we had our officer meetings, we had a protocol, we had everything, so it worked out great. But in the end, it they you would have to interview one of them
Yeah.
to have the real reason. But I just believe that maybe we turned a little bit too into the hardcore position back then. And if you just want to play the game with your friends and do not want to do it, then of course you have to look for something else, and they found it.
But were they part of like the core friendship group that started the Madhouse?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They were.
So they
It was the
that
majority.
kind of core split as well because you kept Balzar.
Yeah. Belzor stayed in the guild. Because Belzor was very proud of what we have achieved, and the guy just doesn't give up easily at all. That's a really great feat he has. Um, well, that sounded wrong, but I hope that was right. Like it's a good characteristic he has. He doesn't
Yeah.
really give up at all. Like he's always fighting until the end. So he stayed and wanted to keep this going, because if he would have quit, I think the guild would have been back then been just in shambles. I believe, because he was a strong voice of reason, and yeah, it was already a big hit that they left, and having Belzor leave then would have been detrimental, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I remembered like the sayings or the word on the street, you know?
Okay.
It was like, Madhouse glory days are over.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, we did fine. Like the speedrun you're looking at was after the guys have left.
yeah,
So we managed to still do insanely well. We would have done better. I mean, Epic, hey, you guys were lucky, of course, that the guys left. Maybe we would have been number one even. Who knows? I mean, they
yeah,
beat
yeah.
us 3 minutes. That's insane. Like, who knows? But um,
Yeah, but
I don't want to take
still
away from that. But yeah,
keep in mind like the third guild on the server is 4 minutes after you.
yeah, we
So
were.
still you two, Epic Fabric and Madhouse, you were a bracket above everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. It was like we were in contact with Epic Fabrican as well, and it was a really nice competition. Like it was not toxic. Of course, we were like at one point we thought, oh, okay, someone is looking at our speedrun tactics and sending it to them, and vice versa as well. Um, like because you had just had people from the outside telling us that. Or even from other guilds. So it was insanely fun for me, at least, to have like a rival, so to speak, that we could go head to head against. It was never really toxic at all. Like it was still like they messaged us. I remember Figuren, I believe it was. Telling us that, yeah, good luck for the speedrun, man. I think you have it in you to beat us, and that was just a nice gesture. It was insanely nice to have back then, because you had a goal. Like our goal was to be number one, and we didn't get it. We were still incredibly happy about that, and we were happy for Epic Fabrican that they got it, and we are still happy and proud that they are representing the horde the way they do.
Yeah, man, back in the good old days where people were treating each other fine.
Yeah, I have to be honest, that changed. That really changed after more transferred here. It sadly isn't as it was back then. Like that was really, that's sad. That's actually really sad, I guess. More
Yeah,
toxicity now, for sure.
yeah, but kinda. I mean, maybe the competition isn't as welcoming now. No, it's more. I don't know. I mean, if they wouldn't have the competition back then, they wouldn't have anybody to compete with, and that would just be sad for the server. Like
Yeah,
we had a big period on the server where it was just dad player dominated. It felt like everybody was raid logging. Orgrimmar felt
yeah,
completely lonely except for Wednesday and Sundays when people were raiding.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
back then, if we could get more active players, like pushing it, trying to compete, that's just welcoming. But now, I mean, the game has developed quite a lot, at least according to me. Like now, pushing parses, that shit didn't exist in that to that extent back then. I mean,
yeah. I'm sure of it, and I understand that it destroys the fun for some people. Like the when we started out with the it is what it is guild, we wanted to go completely away from that mindset. We tried it out to go like, I mean, world buffs nice, get them if you can, whatever. I didn't want to create a real hierarchy or structure in the guild. I just wanted us to be initially I thought that okay, maybe we can have one raid group, maybe, but it turned out to be more people that wanted to join, so we went up to two again
Yeah.
instantly. We started from the get go with two groups, and yeah, people are. I mean, I understand both sides of the aspect, like spectrum. I understand that some people just want to play the game to the fullest extent and like do the best they can, research their class, get prepared, get world buffs, show up, and do your best in order to compete with others from the server. And on the other hand, I understand that people are like, I don't want to log off with my character and not be able to play the game for a whole day, maybe, or even more or longer, just because I want to save a few world buffs so I can DPS like 100. I have 100 more DPS or have 99 parses instead of like 89. So I understand both sides of the aisle, and I think most of the guilds on the server call themselves semi-hardcore, and that is just you attract both sides of the spectrum. Like you get people in that have the mindset that they want to raid in a more organized manner, but maybe not bring all consumables and world buffs. But then you also get the pushers, the pumpers, and they want to just parse and be number one. And I understand both, so it's always a struggle to balance that out. And I think I'm pretty sure that almost every guild on the server, maybe not Turtles, maybe not Epic and the others, that they have people in the raids that like half are probably sometimes even showing up with flasks for every raid. They go completely ham, and then you have the other half who are like they just woke up and they're like, okay, let's step into Blackwing Land, kill everything. And I mean, we everyone is able to do it without world buffs and consumables, but I mean, it's probably for most, I believe, that still play the game. A lot of people quit, but the people who still play the game, I think it's the majority. It's more fun to do the best you can. But maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
Well, I think I think like the player based kinda refined itself. Like
Mm-hmm.
the players that were just high on classic being released, they kinda quit because they were just there to play the game. I mean,
Yeah,
they didn't want to push it, and now you have some of those are still there, of course. Like we have the casual guilds, and I like them a lot. I like the
yeah,
casuals.
yeah. Me too.
I have no hate for people not wanting to push it. I think that's completely fine. Play the game however you want it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But for the competitive players, it has refined a lot. People are there's so many sources available as well. I mean, you play a rogue, of course, you have heard of like Sarth and his
Yeah. Yeah.
videos. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so easily explained everything. Just how you do the lip opener on Velstras,
Yeah.
everything, and you just go there next day and you have it nailed down because it's quite easy.
Yeah. I mean, classic is not hard. And one correction: I now, as I said, play Hunter because of the trank shot, but I played a rogue back then. And you are completely right. Like, if, for example, IIWII is coming out, I have no fucking clue about any of the tactics. I haven't been in IIWII before. Um, I didn't even watch any videos so far, but you can just everything, as you said, is online. Like, if I don't even know, except for Sithun, like what the bosses are called. But I'm just gonna go into YouTube. I'm gonna search for IIWII guides. I'm gonna read some stuff from forums before the raid comes out, and then we're going to set some strategies how we're going to do it, because everything is accessible. I don't need to know that myself. There is absolutely no need for me to know it, because there are resources that I can just 1 or 2 weeks prior watch it, write something down for our guys, and tell them, hey, you have to taunt there, you have to stand there, you have to heal this. We need nature resistance gear. You need 200, 300, whatever, and that's it. Like that, Classic is not for now at least. I have no clue how Anquirai and Naxxramas will be, but Classic is not as hard as it as vanilla used to be. Of course not, because it is just researched so much, and every little aspect is just like it has been played for 15 years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for example, that Skull of Impending Doom, that people wouldn't have like chosen the item. I'm sure of it, if it
No,
wasn't
man.
for the PvPers saying, "Hey, dude," or for the speedrunners, "Hey, get the item so you can get the speed boost and whatnot." So, um, we have some people in the guild, and we had some people in the guild who didn't know about that, and they didn't get it. Um, and yeah, these are like small things that are just so played out and so researched that you just have to go online, look for whatever you want. If you want to level up profession, if you want to PvP and rank, there are websites I've seen. Like I have no clue about ranking and all of that. Um, but there are websites where you can just say, okay, now I am rank 7, 36%, and if I go into bracket 1 or bracket 2, it takes me 10 weeks to reach rank 14. I don't think it was like that back then. Like people just played the game and waited for Wednesday in order to see where they end up in the ranking, and so
Yeah, but
yeah,
also
it changed. It
also as
changed.
well, I'm saying that it's still developing a lot. Like when you have meta changes like the new strategy with the improved exposed armor for the
Oh
rogues.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah,
that happened last Darkmoon Fair. You
yeah.
started seeing it on the hardcore guilds, and you had 1 week later it kind of exploded all over the internet. People started doing
Absolutely.
Reddit posts. Sarth made a complete video guide of it where he showed like the whole combination of keeping 5 combo points up, how to play it. I mean, it becomes so easily attainable.
Absolutely. And also like the flask stuff that the healers can just get 2k mana by popping
Oh yeah,
flasks, and what I think it was Onslaught, what they did with the priest, like mind visioning and stuff like that, so they can get the packs out, or the
yeah.
flask
It
of
was
petrification and getting the people like the three big guys, the worm guards, in after Chromagos. Like you're completely right. It's still evolving and it's still fun, but I think these guilds that are coming up with these threats are like on a whole nother level. I personally don't think that maybe Turtles, Epic's memories, like you're looking at the logs, maybe these guilds are could come up with like their own threats, but like the normal, like more normal guild, so to speak, we are just adapting what others are showing us, I believe.
yeah. We're just apes and
Yeah.
repeating.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually are, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't believe turtles are coming up with their own stuff. I mean, I watched their speed run, and it was of course it was a great run. The time was incredibly good. But they did take stuff slowly, and I believe they even laughed about like, are we doing onslaught strats, stuff
Okay,
like
yeah.
that, because they did like suppression room right side and kind of
Ah, okay.
suboptimal. They didn't push
Yeah,
it
yeah.
with like the flask of petrification and stuff like that. I mean, you could always improve, but it would also be an increased risk.
Increased risk and very costly. Like I mean there is
Yes.
no shame. There is absolute in my opinion, there is no shame in adapting something that better players do. Like absolutely not. The Onslaught 3 pack, like the technician pack pull that they did, like pulling 3 packs, um
Yeah.
insanely risky. I would have never done it, I believe. Like it would have been way too risky. Um for us to do, like in our guild, I believe. Trying it out and looking at it and seeing that is insanely nice though. Like it would be interesting to see if that is a feasible strategy for like a more normal setup where you don't have like 10, 15 rank 14 warriors pumping hard. But I'm not sure. Like it's nice to see. Absolutely nice to see.
Well, you definitely want flasks under your melees.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Like I think the was it memories? I'm not sure. Like I am in the Bloodfang Discord. There was a guild who did a speedrun as well, and they were really good in time. And I believe that they were flask up, but you can just where they wiped, you could just see that um, situations like these happen. Like there is nobody at fault there. If you get stunned and like someone spins and kills your half of your raid or almost your whole raid, it's just unlucky timing. Maybe tank mistakes, maybe whatever. Like maybe someone pulled threat, whatever. Like I'm not talking about that run specifically, but shit just happens. Someone could get clipped by like wing clip, and there is not much you can do in that regard. The only thing you can do, as you said, is flasking up your melee so they have a little bit more health, and um, mistakes are more forgiving, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. My philosophy when it comes to technicians is you have to outmuscle them. It's
Yeah,
just about
yeah, yeah,
mitigation.
yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I believe so too. But then you need everyone to have engineering again, and that's, are you gonna force your guys to go all engineering and not have their farming like herbalism so they can make money for consumables or mining? um I mean, you can have two primary professions, of course, but yeah, some people are only playing one character and putting all the time they have into one character. So if they have two primary professions, for example, then they might not be able to farm gold,
Yeah.
tanks especially. So it's hard. Like you have to really find a balance between what you want to achieve in this game and with your guild, and what you want to put upon your players. And we are currently, for example, in that situation. Like we have to find a really nice balance and a good middle ground, and it's hard. It's hard with every change. It's hard.
So we touched the subject briefly, but I would like to elaborate on it. How would you define the casual to hardcore spectrum? Because I agree with you. I think it's really confusing with casual, semi-hardcore, and hardcore. I have no clue what the difference are.
Okay. I can only speak for myself, but
Please do.
initially when we created the guild, I thought that okay, hardcore is having like all consumables, all world buffs for every raid. Like it doesn't matter if it's a speedrun or not. You don't have to flask, but um no, actually being hardcore would be flasking up, and also for the people that need the gear, ranking in PvP. In my opinion, that is hardcore. Like this is really hardcore. You tell your warriors you have to be rank 14. Um, you have to flask up. You have to bring everything. Your bags have to be full of consumables, and you are not really allowed to make big mistakes. Like imagine in onslaught in a speed run someone pulling threat. Oof, he would be benched, kicked, demoted, whatever. I'm sure of it. So I think that is a hardcore environment where it doesn't really matter that much who you are, but more like how you perform in game. And they're more focused on that. So if there is someone better, you're instantly getting replaced. Doesn't matter if you have been with the guild forever, if you have been reliable, if you helped out people getting attunements and crafted stuff for them for free, enchanted their gear for free, whatever. If someone is better than you, then you are just going to get replaced. I think that is a hardcore mentality. Like the casual mentality is, I think we have a guild on the server now that's called No World Buffs, and they are going into the raid with no world buffs. Either because they don't want to, they don't have the time. I don't know. I have no clue, but I think that is a more casual guild. Like I would define them as casual. Not because they take longer in Blackwing Lair or whatever, but it's more like mentality. I have never watched a stream, but I can imagine that they just go in, they try their best, they have fun, enjoy the raid, they don't care if like they rack up after packs, wait until the manas are full, the healers are full of mana, and then do the next pack. Okay, and that's how I imagine a casual guild. They don't expect much from you except for showing up for raids. Um, if you wipe, you wipe, not a big deal, because you didn't bring world buffs in the first place. No big drama, very relaxed, fun environment. That's how I imagine a casual guild. And now to come to the semi-hardcore guild or guilds, that's hard. That's really hard because that's probably what we wanted to do as well, or what we are doing, and that is we don't expect everyone to show up with every single world buff for farm content, but it still makes the clear so much smoother and easier if you bring certain world buffs and consumables that we expect that from our raiders. Um, that I would call like semi-hardcore. I think it's, yeah, it can be defined completely like differently, but semi-hardcore is really trying your best while also gimping yourself by not bringing everything you have or you could bring. For example, just going in with um, Onyxia, Songflower, Zul'Gurub, or whatever, like a combination of world buffs instead of getting Diamond Tribute as well, DMF when it's up, and all of that stuff. So it's a middle ground. It's not the pumpers, it's not the flasking up and 99 parses, but on the other hand, it's also not having like the 10 parses, the Greylocks, and showing up with nothing and wiping on well 4 times, 5 times because you don't have the damage. So it's a fine line, I believe, and a lot of guilds failed. We probably included back in Madhouse. I'm sure of it. That's the reason, and a lot of other guilds are struggling with that. Like all
It's
of the guilds probably are struggling with that.
you're clipping out a bit sometimes with your voice.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you are as well. Maybe it's Discord,
Oh
but I'm
shit.
but I'm trying to get a little bit closer to the mic.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds more like you might have your cell phone close to your headset or something. I don't know.
No, I use a stand-up mic, like a,
Ah, okay.
so it shouldn't be that. But I'm 1 sec. I can just change this a little bit and this. Okay.
Yeah, we're obviously struggling here on the pilot.
No problem, no problem.
Yeah.
Do you want me to repeat what I said, like the
No, no,
definitions of?
it's fine. It's fine.
All right. So to summarize it, hardcore guild, in my opinion, is ranking to get the best gear. Hunters rank 13, warriors, rogues rank 14 to get the weapons, and flasking up and showing up with every buff, every consumable en masse, and use like separating, dense dynamiting, lipping every fight, using Thistlety every fight, and all of that. Like it's a like no question about that. That is hardcore. The performance is in focus and not the player. Semi-hardcore is not show like not demanding every world buff, not demanding every consumable, but still having like a focused rate, not like fucking around. And a casual guild is, to summarize it, more laid back, more fun, enjoying more the community aspect, and not focusing on the performance, but more on the player. That's my take on it.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite a jungle to orient, to be honest.
Absolutely.
I guess my take on it is like, I think hardcore, a lot of it is down to split raiding. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. You're right. I forgot
I,
about that. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Like, you need to have like 3 characters at least at level 60 if you're gonna have. I mean, if you go in with a super hardcore, where you're reducing your number of rogues to 3 and just filling every melee group up with warriors, in order to
Yeah.
gear those guys, you need to split run. Doesn't matter if you're rank 14, you still need the trinkets.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I didn't think about that, but you're completely right.
But then
That's
then
an
as
aspect of
well,
WoW that is very hardcore.
there's a spectrum of the semi-hardcore. Like, I wouldn't say demanding to have engineer on every character is hardcore, but I think like there's the more hardcore part of the semi-hardcore, because I don't think it's a hardcore aspect to demand the best possible setup. Like, you have to come with well buffs, you have to get engineering on the character that you're raiding with.
Hmm. Yeah, that's and trust me, like you have the mindset like this that you don't think that's hardcore, but to some people, I can assure you that it's a hardcore mentality. Like I agree with you. It just ensures that the raids are smoother. Um, But for example, at that point, I would personally disagree. Like I think telling your people to go engineering, that's hardcore, in my opinion. But just because of the reasons I told you before, that you might gimp someone's ability to farm gold, and it semi forces them to have an ult that they can farm gold with. Then I guess a mage or whatever.
Yeah,
But I
but
see
you,
your point. I completely see your point.
yeah, I kind of think you have to if you're gonna be in a guild that is at least pushing like sub 45 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, I agree with you. So, what type of rating do you personally enjoy? Like, what is your what does your ideal raid look like, or raid environment, so to speak?
Well, for me personally, it comes absolutely down to atmosphere. Like, I want the guys to have a good time. I want to know the people that I raid with as well, and I like it when it's kind of friendly, and it
Mm-hmm.
can be a bit like give and take. Like we can banter with each other. I we recognize each other voices and stuff like that. When it feels like you're hanging out with your guys or something like that.
Okay, I
But
understand.
also I want people to perform. Like, of course, I have goals for myself, but as well, I mean, I expect the people I play with to not come and be slackers, basically. And
Yeah.
that's quite harsh for a bunch of people. I understand that. Uh, so I guess I'm quite demanding.
Yeah, would you categorize yourself then as like semi-hardcore as well, or do you think you're more leaning towards hardcore?
I would say I'm semi-hardcore, but I
Okay.
would say I'm closer to the hardcore spectrum of the semi-hardcore than
Okay.
the casual or
Yeah.
or semi part of it.
I mean, in the end, I think that's what we all want. Um, it just comes down to, do you have the time to prepare, and do you have the time to be a pumper, how we call it? Um, because I mean, that's the dream scenario, I believe, that you have a group of friends, I would call them, that you are raiding with, and you have the same mindset, you have the same goal, and you want to achieve the same. That's a dream. And if you can do that with your friends that either you have gotten to know in the game, or from real life, that's the dream, absolutely. And it is hard to like achieve that, because it will always be hard to find 40 like-minded people.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
it's and trust me, it's even harder to find 80 like-minded people. So it is it is a struggle. But what's hard is to like really have a guild identity. Like, how do you define semi-hardcore? In what aspect are you semi-hardcore? Are you loot canceling the items to the best performing players? Are you demanding everything like world buffs, consumables? Are you replacing people if they underperform? Like, there are so many different aspects of the game where you could go more hardcore, and so on some others you can be a little bit more casual, and that defines the semi-hardcoreness. So setting a standard for all of these aspects is hard. For example, in I personally, for me, it's very important to show up on time. Is that hardcore if I tell people we are going to rate on 20, like invites are on 20:45, and they have to show up at that time? Apparently for some it is.
Yeah, I
For
have a
others it
work
isn't.
colleague.
So
He always shows up 50 minutes late. That would be hardcore as fuck for him, man.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's, or as we have discussed, like telling people to go engineering, please, for the rate. Is that hardcore? Are you going to go into that route as well? Like, do you demand that from your people? Um, do you want them to have alts? Do you expect them to have summoners or mages to portal? Do you expect people to clear Daimao tribute? Like, there are so many different smaller aspects of this game where you could go hardcore, like hardcore in parentheses, but where you could like tell people what you expect from them. And it's also about like, how do you punish people if they do not do that? Like, do you punish them? Do you not punish them? That's what that is all about. That is what hardcore, in my opinion, is about. Like, if someone puts threat, are you gonna kick him out of the raid? If I had that happen yesterday, someone clicked on the scouts, the pile of scouts in Zoo group and wiped us because of it. Someone got mind controlled and feared the others. So are you gonna like I yesterday I would have kicked the guy. Yeah, I kicked the guy. And is that hardcore? Is that just like, dude, we have been in the raid for how long now? How many times? And people still do that?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like, it's a fine line. Okay, it's a really fine line, and especially as a leader, someone in the guild management, council, whatever you want to call it, it is very hard to communicate it perfectly, because you have to. What I have learned is you have to tell people exactly what you expect from them. Otherwise, they are going to find loopholes. They are going to try to maybe not do it if it's work for them, and some are even abusing the goodwill, like the trust and the good faith you have in your members. So it's hard. It's really hard to balance this out. So what I would advise everyone who is thinking about creating a guild: either go hardcore or go casual. The middle ground is a hell. It is hell. It is absolutely hell. So uh yeah, choose either if you listen to me.
Well, the thing is, like, what you're saying, it runs into a lot with what I like with It Is What It Is. I think I think that you have a broad spectrum that you can have, since you have two raiding teams. Then you can have the guys that are pushing. Like, they might not be able to parse every run, but at least
Mm-hmm.
they're splitting, so they get the loot for when you're doing your kind of speed run. And
Yep.
I think that's good. That's really good, because so many guilds struggle with this identity. Like, what exactly are we trying to achieve here? Because we have some guys that are going for the top parses, we have some guys that are just logging into raid.
Yeah, but like, I have to be completely honest. We are still struggling with it. We just had a guild meeting yesterday for 2 hours because, as you know, we have gotten a lot more members in from the ashes. So
Yeah.
people, what does that mean? That means more competition for raid spots, and of course people are like, oh shit, if I don't, do I have to parse high now to get a raid spot? Is that what they're looking at? Is what are they looking at? So I had to explain to the people what we are after. And maybe it might make sense at this point to just say how this guild started and how we developed, because I would say we are not exactly the same guild as we started out. If that's fine with you.
Could we begin with actually how Madhouse ended?
Sure.
So let's jump back to that vague timeline that I kinda painted up in the beginning, like 45
Yeah,
minutes ago.
sure. Sure.
So, so running into like phase 3, where BBL uh, got released, kind of the server.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to call it, but it was like a big crisis on the server in regards to guilds. Like, we had
Yeah, that's always going to
we
happen.
lost so
That's
many
always
guilds.
going to happen.
We lost the Dusk that went into straight out of Compton. Nevermind merged or became Dawn, and Soulbound, I believe, split up. Like,
Oh yeah, let me
we have
actually check the
Hounds of
logs. There are a
Hades.
lot of guilds. Yeah.
Hounds of Hades merged with From the Ashes as well.
Exactly. You're very informed. Yeah. You're completely right. Yeah.
Yeah, and as well, like
Filthy
a couple.
casuals as well.
Okay,
Filthy casuals, like we it turned into Pixel, and some of the people joined us.
that's way later. Pixel, right?
Sorry.
Filthy Casual into Pixel. That's way later.
Yeah. Sorry, that happened like 1 month ago, I believe, or not even
Yeah,
then. But yeah. You're right. Like, a lot of guilds disbanded when the new content hit, and we are seeing this now as well. Um, a lot of guilds are having issues. Like, people are unsure is that raid group going to clear the content, or do I have to struggle? And so I think that's always going to happen. I really think in the end we will have, like, when Nux Ramas hits, m- there are some guilds, like, I'm sure Epic Fabricating, like, from Horde side, Epic Fabricating is going to stay around, Unity is going to stay around. Like the guilds with a real strong leadership and a clear vision, like a clear goal and like-minded people, these are the guilds that probably are going to stay around. Can you be sure? No. Would I have thought that madhouse would break apart anytime? No, of course not. But sometimes stuff happens that is like, people have a disagreement and they can't fix it. So shit happens, and it can happen to every guild. It can happen to my guild. It might happen to my guild. Um,
Yeah.
you can never be sure about that. But how madhouse ended basically was, I was always very, very focused to have two even raid groups, so I can ensure that people play together with their friends, while also clearing the content without any issues. I personally felt that it would be very unfair to tell half of the guild that you are not good enough to fit into the first raid group. Um, and I felt it was unfair if you only judge it by performance, like by logs, okay, how much DPS you do. I felt that would have been very unfair. And in the end, like, I quit the game for a few weeks. It basically came down to a disagreement in the leadership. I never was a guild master that was like, I make the decisions and whatever I say counts. I don't really care
No.
about your opinions, but we ran it as a more of a council. So everyone in that leadership had the same say. I had the title because I had a tighter contact to our members. They messaged me, they trusted me with problems and whatever. So um, we decided together with Belzor back then, since um, his wife had a girlfriend or wife had a child, so he had to step back a little bit. He trusted me a lot and gave me the leadership position, the guildmaster position, and then I wanted to run it as a council, and listen to the people from the leadership and come to a nice conclusion. And it worked out great in the beginning. Everything was nice, but then some of the people in the leadership had a different mindset. They would have much rather wanted to have the best performing players in one group and then try with that setup to build up the best synergy possible, and like try to get better every week. And I completely understood that point of view. Like, I completely understood that point of view, but I fought so hard to keep two raid groups going in order for us to do a speed run correctly, like have an edge on speed runs, that I didn't want to give up the second group. And also we have a crew of 5 to 6 Russians. We have a crew of Danish people from Sweden, people from Germany, like all over the place. We have groups of people, and it is very important. And I'm always trying my best. It doesn't always work out. It hasn't always worked out in Madhouse, but at least I was always trying to keep these guys together so you can play with your friends. I wouldn't have mind, like, for me it was not important that one of the Russians is underperforming, one is a super hyper giga DPS guy, and I want him in the first group, and the rest has to go into the second group. I personally would have never done it, because I feel like this is, you're destroying the fun for people, and you're dividing the groups as well. So I was heavily against that idea, and at one point, like, it has been a lot of negative stuff. We had a lot of, like, loot council. I would never run a loot council again. I believe, because you can make it as transparent as possible. You can tell the people why, but a lot of people still think that they are the best players and they are deserving of the item. They don't understand why a crossbow from Chromagos goes to Hunter number 2 and not to me, for example. Um, y- if you don't know each other for a few years, I believe, or a few months at least, and you have very tight contact and have a tight group, you're going to run into that problem, I believe. And if you don't make it very, very clear how you are choosing who gets the item. And
Yeah.
how Madhouse ended, basically, it came really down to the majority of the leadership back then being pro that idea to go in a more like putting the good in parentheses players into one group and the more laid back and casual people into the other group. And that's fine. I mean, that's what we are probably going to do in my guild now as well. But that's fine. That's really fine because you give people the opportunity to choose. But I believe that having only one pushing raid group while having around 60 players who want to push, you're going to run into huge problems. Now
Oh,
we have two groups, and we might have we have maybe a third group even going with a more laid back attitude. Plus, you have two pucks, one puck's organized, like now two pucks organized by people from our guild. So you have more than enough opportunities to raid. But that's the reason why Madhouse fell apart. Like why I quit. Then they chose to go a little bit even more pushy. I believe, like at least that's what I heard, that they wanted to some. I'm not talking about everyone, but that's it. That's what I heard. I might be wrong. I wasn't playing at that point, but that they wanted to prioritize alts for gear before mains, and yeah, then I tried to go into the Discord to talk to the guys because I've been constantly messaged by people when I quit to please come back because it turned into a little bit more hardcore orientation, and it would have divided some friends, and they didn't want that, and I would have quit the game or quit the guild or whatever. So I came back, I gave my point of view, told the guys again, please reconsider that. Of course, I'm telling you like that I did it that nicely. Maybe it was a heated discussion, of course, but
punches were thrown.
no, no, it they had the best intention in mind. They didn't want to shit on people. I'm 100% certain, but maybe the timing was off, maybe the communication was not correct, but it turned into something that a lot of people disagreed with, and at that point I was asked to come back, and I was at that point where, like, same as back then when the Swedish crew quit. I thought, like, okay, let me just create a guild where the people who do not like that attitude can just join in, and we can play together. Because some of the guys I have known now since August, that's almost 1 year. Back then it was like half a year. We spent countless hours together, and it would be a shame to split the people up that have gotten to know each other to that extent. So my initial plan was to create the guild and just give people the opportunity to join that. It was always my priority to not poach anyone. I am not contacting people directly um, to join my guild. Like, I'm not doing this now. I haven't done it. We didn't do that in Madhouse. For it is what it is. I contacted one guy that I really enjoyed playing with. That's all. Like, I'm gonna be honest about that. Um, but people left a message when they left, and they encouraged people to think about what they want to do with the game, and it might have seemed like that um, came from me, that I encourage people to do that, but I didn't. If they people believe it, they can. If they do not believe it, they can't. They don't have to. But it was always like very important for me to not poach, and I didn't want to destroy Madhouse at all. That was not my primary intention, because I loved Bezor. I loved the guy. I loved the people in the leadership. I had disagreements with another guy a lot. I still value, like, I still respect the guy immensely. It's an insanely, like, probably the best player we had in the guild. Insanely smart, but might have been like miscommunication, two different visions of the same, like, on the same situation. So we went head to head a lot, and yeah, others as well. Like, these were insanely great people, really really nice people, and it just came down to having a different mindset regarding one topic, and that in the end split up the guild, and people then one after the other just saw people leaving, and sadly, it's like a domino effect. Like if one guy leaves and you like the guy, that you want, of course, you want to play with him. So in the end, Madhouse fell apart because the people chose to raid with what we wanted to do with the guild.
Yeah.
A- and that's the story. Like that's basically the story.
Yeah. Well,
So
it
from
it
my
ca-
side, no ill feelings, but it happens.
yeah, yeah. Well, what you're saying correlates with what I've heard as well. Like when people in Madhouse started talking to me about the issues, that was
Hmm.
when you had your pause, and
Yeah, yeah,
they started giving loot priority to alts, like depending on parses.
yeah,
That's when people were saying like, okay, this is taking a turn for the worse, and it's going quickly. Something is probably going to happen in the upcoming time. Um,
exactly. And yeah, I think that was. I understand the point of view. Like I see why someone would recommend that, but it's it just has been the wrong decision. Maybe it was communicated wrong. I'm not sure, but like I don't remember the message that they have announced to the players, but I just remember getting like 8 to 12 messages like right when that was announced with
yeah,
people like holy shit, they are doing this. And they were like, we talked to each other and they were like really laughing at the even the suggestion, the like you are rewarding someone who can play 24/7 twice, like you give gear to the main and the old, um and you are hurting someone who has a family, university, work, um, and don't give the main gear. And yeah, I think while I understand that point of view, as I said, I get why someone would want to do that, but it was a little bit tone deaf to the other players. Like at least we were a very social guild as well. Like we were hanging out in Discord. We had a really nice community, man. And it should have been clear that a lot of people are not up for that, but it wasn't. And might have been that people were more talking to me, and maybe I wasn't uh, like redirecting everything to the leadership. But so it might have been my mistake as well. But it's yeah, it was, looking back, it probably was just a wrong decision.
so what kind of happened is that Madhouse, I would say it's split into three parts. I would say tribute, and it is what it is, and the third part being just people going randomly. Like you have
Yeah.
Metrom went to Ambitions. I think he
Mm-hmm.
stayed with his hunter in your guild, perhaps. And
Yes.
and you have Balsoar going to Epic Fabriken, for instance.
Yeah.
So I guess like they are either they followed you or they followed Light.
Yeah. Exactly. So to be honest, like looking back at it, I think everyone is really happy with what they have gotten. Bezor being an epic fabricant, like the guy is very ambitious and he strives for the best, and now he can be in a guild that gives him the opportunity to do so. So I'm pretty sure that the guy's very happy about where he landed. Shivan is in Unity. Unity is insanely nice guild, insanely nice people. They have a lot of rank 14 dedicated players, good players, while still being like very social, at least to the horde. I'm sorry, Alliance, I know what they do to you, but at least to, to us,
Yeah,
they
they're
are
quite frequent in the shame channel.
yeah. Yeah, but so Shivan is in there, and looking at the guy's performance, insane. He can live out his dream, like just pumping with his rogue. Then we have people following Light. I liked the guy immensely when he was in Madhouse. I recommended promoting him to class rep almost instantly after he joined. A very level-headed guy, had good structure. He worked out our loot system for the casters, and I can tell you, man, it was it. We had the most drama with caster loot, and after he did the loot system, it has become, we had no almost no issues. So the guy was doing his job really, really well. And so I completely understand why people followed him into tribute, because he wanted to achieve what we also like now want to like, or what we achieved is, and that's having like-minded people in one guild, and they come prepared, and then you go hard in the raid, and you focus up for like 1-2 hours, and then you are done. And so I understand that completely. Like the 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 guild, it is what it is, was very spontaneous. Like the name, for example, it came
Yeah.
from a GIF, and the meme. So I didn't have a plan. Like I really didn't have a plan. I was just like, okay, maybe we can rate, maybe we can't rate. We're gonna focus on a little bit more of the social aspect. We're going to do fun events. We're going to do this and this and that. But after 3, 4, 5 days, I had 85% I think from madhouse, and it is what it is. So we instantly shot up to 2 raid groups again, and slowly but surely we evolved. Like first it was really laid back, casually, like casual atmosphere. We all, I think, realized that we don't enjoy that. We don't enjoy wiping because of stupid mistakes. Like wipes happen in progress, no problem, but if it's like stupid mistakes and you are struggling on a boss and whatever, like it takes you 2 hours to clear Blackwing Lair, um, it's harsh. People have to work the next day, they have family, girlfriends, pregnant wives, whatever, and they want to raid because raids are enjoyable, but they would rather not spend 2 3 hours in one raid, I guess, when every other guild clears it in 1 hour. So yeah, we slowly evolved. Like first it was, okay guys, please bring more consumables, please pop this there. We made a sheet with strats. We um, told them, please make consumables what we have in the guild right now. It has evolved into, we have something like a travel agency that has been given life by one of my like my warrior class rep. That great idea. We have a
What's a
sheet.
travel agency?
It is a sheet. Like it is, we have a sheet where we have everyone listed that has a level 20 summoner in
Oh
certain
yeah,
places, and clickers and portal boys. So and girls, I'm sorry, and whatever. Like I want to include everyone, but um, that's what we have. Like we have people that are in different places, and at any time of the day you can request a summon, and if you're lucky and the guys are online, you're gonna get a summon to that, and you can get your Daimon tribute, you can get your so group buffs, you can get your all of the buffs you want. You can get a summon, you can get a portal, you can ask the hunters to clear a Daimon tribute. What we're actually going to do now is implementing a rotation for the Daimon tribute clears for the hunters, so we can set certain times when we clear it. Like I'm clearing it, and others as well. So yeah, we are, you could say that we turned a little bit more hardcore, and it was just the reason why. And for example, now we have a competition for raid spots, since we have so many players for both raids. Like there's competition for every spot, from tanks to healers to DPS. The reason why we chose that route is that it is a management nightmare if you have to run after people signing up for raids, and if you have to control them to bring what you ask them to bring. And in my opinion, it's just common courtesy to prepare for a raid, because others are doing it and they are spending time doing it. So you should do that as well if you want to be a part of such a raiding guild. Um, of course, we evolved, but in my opinion, we just have gotten better and better. Like we did a speed run, I believe, 1 month after being created. Let me check. When was it? June. So 1.5 months after being created, we did our first speed run, and we are the third fastest guild on the server. So that was successful, and it was a very spontaneous thing as well. Like we decided that 6 days before the speed run that we want to do a speed run. We had people in the speed run that were completely new, have never raided with us, but since we are so structured and prepared, and organized, it it just has proven to be successful. And that's the mentality we have now. Like, we are offering people a lot. We are offering them 2 raid teams. We are offering them 2 pucks now. We are
Yeah,
offering them the travel agency. We provide, like, the guild bank is very transparent. You can see what's in there. We are telling people what we use the money for. We are providing everyone with a flask for the first progress runs in Ankh-Rai. We have greater nature protection potions, like 5 to 10 for every single of the 80 raiders we have. Um, so I think we are doing very nice on a lot of aspects, but like I understand that people who initially joined and have raided with us, that they do not appreciate the way that the guild has turned out to be, like regarding expecting world buffs and consumables. For some of the guys who would listen, it's like, okay, what's the problem? But you have to know that, and you have to consider that some people just do not have the time to do it. And if you go into a guild that initially says, okay, we are trying to be a little bit more laid back, but then the management or the leadership sees that it's really hard to organize it, and it takes up a lot of time, and they want to set a certain standard, so the loot system is fair and everything else is fair because everyone is on the same page and on the same level. I can understand why people might get frustrated with it and say that they should that they're looking for something else. And I completely understand that, and that's exactly the problem like you have with a semi-hardcore guild. If you tighten up one aspect, people might be like, why is that needed? Why do we have to do this? And they might not see the greater picture that the leadership sees. And yeah, that's
yeah,
that's it.
yeah. I think that's a common problem for most of the guilds. Like it comes back to what we spoke about before with identity, basically. But you have some immense power with the numbers in the guild, like being able to provide that summoning service. I mean, for smaller
Yeah.
guilds, you have to organize so you pick up the buffs at the same time, or something like that, and it might not be as flexible, and you risk losing your buffs if you take the wrong path. Like if you don't start with the CG buff, you're gonna get the spell in Booty Bay, and you're going back to
Mm-hmm.
Dire Maul.
Yeah.
It's nice of you to being able to do such thing because you have the numbers for it.
Yeah, and it's not only about the numbers. It's like it is just dedicated players who are selfless enough to help others, and that's so valuable to have. Like, I imagine having that even in real life. Like, if you have a company and you have people like that, it shows character, it shows involvement in the guild, it shows interest in moving the guild forward and ensuring that you're not struggling. Like, people maybe they might not see that, so they log on and they expect that. Like, we had people really being a little bit demanding when it comes to that, and they don't see that there are people behind that computer spending their real life time in order for you to get your buffs. And I have kicked people out of the guild because they were unappreciative of it and were very demanding. Like, I
Yeah,
have no patience with someone who doesn't respect the amount of time and effort that is being put in the guild by members, leadership, or whatever. Like, I don't want you to kiss our asses or say, "Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you." That's not it. But if you are toxic about it, if you are mad because someone didn't do a right portal for you and you're turning toxic, that has no place in my guild, at least. And I don't want to call it my guild. Like, it was a it was a decision by the leadership we have now, to create a guild together. So I said my guild a lot, but it's a core group of really really nice guys. Like, I would call them friends of mine.
yeah,
That yeah, we created the guild, and we had a vision and we are following that vision, and the vision has changed a little bit because we have seen how stressful it is if you don't have everyone on the same page, and we're trying our best. Might work out, might not work out. You never know. Like, I'm not cocky in that sense that I say it is what it is. It's going to um, be around when Wrath of the Lich King hits. But of course, that's the goal. Like, of course, that's the intent behind everything we are doing.
Yeah. From the outside, I think it looks like you're gonna down Max. The way you're set up with all the players, like all you have to offer as well. I think you're gonna go the whole way in Classic, no doubt from my side. But I'm not a
Yeah,
player
I
in your
sure
guild.
hope
It's
so.
just
And
how it looks from the outside to me.
yeah. And I'm actually really happy. Like we have gotten people from Toxic, we have gotten people from Filthy Casuals. Now we have people from the Ashes, and people always are wary of change. Like they are always very careful about, okay, why is this going to change? Why are we doing this? Why are we getting so many people in? And that's understandable. But I mean, the reason why is summer break hit everyone. I guess all guilds are struggling to some extent, I believe,
Yeah.
and we just wanted to ensure that we can run through the content without any issues, and that just meant that we had to constantly recruit. And recruiting on this server on Bloodfang is not that easy. Like we are still, I'm leaning myself out of the window, but even with the sheer amount of players we have now, I think still need one more hunter. We could still use one more hunter, and that's insane if you think about how many people we have now. So it is a constant struggle. Like the most amount of time I spent being online or managing is a big time was recruitment, like talking to other guild masters who are struggling with the same issues, identity crisis that we all had and have. And we were talking about, hey, what can we do? Is there something we can maybe arrange? Can we merge? Can we absorb? What is there to do? Like, can we do a collaboration with what? That's how the unknown, and it is what it is. Puck came about. That was just out of necessity. Like we have alts that want to raid. We have people that can't come to the main raid, so we wanted to give them an opportunity to raid, and that's happening. And now we have Denetharian in the guild, who is leading his puck on Saturday. That is a very successful puck as well, and people can join that puck as well. And we encourage everyone to join these pucks. Like we want to have. We are looking now. Like it's a new situation for us. The that we got from the Ashes guys is like it has been 2 days, I believe, 2 3 days, and we are still trying to find out like how many raiders do we have now, like how many people do we have that really want to raid um, in that environment that we have created now, like coming prepared, respecting the time, and putting in a little bit effort into
Yeah.
your character and all of that. So right now we just have to see like how many people are up for it. Can we offer everyone a raid spot? Are people fine with like sitting out raids? Are we going to rotate? Are we going to have a third raid, a little bit more laid back? Are we going to um, lead them into the puck, like the Ethereum's puck, for example? Can we do a full-on "it is what it is" puck out of that, with his puck rules, whatever? So does that even work out in the end? Like, are the guys still like we had a few hefty discussions now since they joined. Some people feel like we are doing uh, changes too fast. Like we updated our Discord a little bit
Is
to
it
make
the
it more
old
structured.
members or the new? Okay, so it's the old members like updating Discord and stuff.
No, did you say old members?
Yes.
No, it's like, for example, updating the Discord, like making it a little bit more structured, was something that I have planned, and we in the leadership have planned forever. Like we have communicated that. I have guild meetings. I write meeting, like we write meeting minutes. I have two people who write that down, what gibberish I talk, and we try to like tell people, okay, if you did miss the guild meeting, these are the meeting minutes that you can read up on. And
Yeah.
now that Denetharian is insanely organized, the guy is very structured. He's a workhorse. He's doing a great job at what he's doing. Some people have had bad experiences with him. Some people just know him from the Discord stories and whatever. But I've been talking to the guy forever, and guy's insanely nice. If you get to know him, he's a way of saying stuff that might not fit most of the people, but he is very organized and he's pushing a lot. So he is just insanely good at doing Discord, like managing Discord. So what we did, like what I did, I talked to him. We had one other guy from the leadership who went and talked to him, like, how do we set up the Discord? What do we want to change? And basically, what we change is that you can opt in and out from certain channels. So the Discord for yourself is not as like you can choose how much you want to see. Do you want to see as a mage the channels from all the other classes? Yes, then you can see it. Um, if not, then no. Okay, you can choose. Do you want to see the not safe for work channel? Yeah, you want to see it, and I would recommend it a lot.
What are you
And
are you posting porn on Discord?
not porn, no, not porn. A few Ricardo Minos pictures here and there. A little bit Latina pictures, of course.
Of course. Okay, okay.
No, but it's uh, yeah. I mean, it is fun thing to have, in my opinion. We have it, and we're gonna keep it. So, but I understand that if you don't want to see that shit, you can just opt out of it. And that's something, for example, that Denetherian changed. He organized the roads a little bit more cleanly. Um, it's more intuitive. We are going to gather up stuff. We're going to consolidate. We had like 10, 15 sheets flying around, Excel sheets. Some of them are outdated. Some of the things can be consolidated into one sheet. And the guy is just insanely good at looking at different stuff we have and organizing it. So why sh- why would I be arrogant and or like cocky and say, no, everything I have done in the Discord, like just talking about Discord now, but I have done is perfect. It wasn't, and it isn't. And it is about finding a way to integrate his structure and his, like, that he's so organized, and combine it with the fun things we have and the atmosphere we have in the guild. Like, I don't want to change it at all. What we have, like the atmosphere in our guild, is insanely nice. We do fun events. We have we had a 10-man Onyxia challenge where 5 teams of 10 went head to head. The losers like are going to get shamed. Still didn't do it. We're gonna shame them in Orgrimmar. Everyone is invited to participate. They have to run naked through Orgrimmar, like RP walking. The winners got a care package, like money, consumables, and all that for raiding. So we're doing this. We have a guild tabard police. We are auctioning off our guild tabard every few weeks,
Yeah,
so people can.
please elaborate on the guild tabard
Okay.
police.
So
It's you, right? Isn't it?
I'm not the police officer.
You're not?
I'm not. I'm not.
Holy shit! You
Like
actually
we have.
delegate that immense responsibility to someone else.
Yes. We
Oh
have.
man, you must trust your officers.
I am absolutely trusting them. So, the Guild Tabard Police was a fun idea we had. We thought about the ways of making money for the guild bank, because it was getting scarce. And if you just auction off Onyxia backpack, for example, which some guilds don't even do, you're getting like 100, 200 gold a week into the guild bank. And if we had just done this, then we wouldn't be in a position where we could provide everyone with a flask and potions for the progress rates. So we thought about fun ideas, what we could do, and I came up with the idea actually. Yeah, I came up with the
An
idea
applause.
that we can auction off our guild tabard. Like it wasn't a talk, but the idea popped in my head. We talked about it, and it was then refined. But the initial idea, uh, yeah, was great. So we thought about like just auctioning off the guild tabard. We thought, okay, we might get like 100, 200 gold, whatever, but it has gone up to, I think the highest was 2k, 2.5k or so to keep it for 3 weeks.
Really?
Because yeah, you can pay for the time. Like there is a certain amount you have to spend, so it changes for 1 week, and if you go above 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks is the maximum. And then people just bid against each other. The money goes straight to the guild bank, very transparent, and yeah, they can choose the tabard design. Actually, today we are in that position that we have to change the tabard again. Um, and yeah, we are going to change the tabard, and we had a few pink tabards. Maybe some of you guys saw that. We had some pink tabards. Now we have actually a nice one, but it's gonna change. I'm not sure to what. And what would be the use of auctioning off the guild tabard if your people would just be like, I don't like the guild tabard, I'm not gonna use it. So we had to implement a system so we can track if everyone is using the tabard, and we did it in a fun way that if you are getting caught, we have a Discord channel that is called like Guild Tabard Police, and we have like you can snitch on your guild mates if they do not have the tabard. You have to screenshot it. You're gonna post them. You're gonna tag them, and they have to pay a 5 gold fine, and that fine is going up. Like if you are caught 2 times, you have to pay more. 3 times, you have to pay more. We have a ranking guy in our guild. I'm not gonna say any names, but he just hit rank 14, who has I think never worn the tabard yet, and he has been tagged I think around 30, 40 times now. So he might have to pay around 500 gold for the guild bank. And yeah, if you are snitching on people, that's also going to get counted. And after each week, if you are number 1, number 2, and number 3, I believe, then you get a care package as well. Like it's not much, but like a few greater fire protection potions. If you have snitched on 20, 25 people, is not bad, I
Oh
guess.
man, you're paying people to snitch?
Of course,
Of
yes.
course. That's how you get them to turn on each other.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's really fun. Like it's really one thing that is like, I think our guild, like that really, I'm not sure how to put it, but that created a really nice environment in our guild. Like it's something that our guild stands for, that we are doing this, I believe. And doing like fun events on top of it. We will have a new event coming up soon. I have no clue what that is about. Like I have people coming up with ideas and discussing it with someone from the leadership, and they come up with it. So I don't even know what it is. But we're gonna have a challenge soon, and a new challenge, and then it's gonna be the same. Like people going head to head and trying to be the fastest, the best, whatever. And that is important because it keeps the game interesting. Because if we are all honest, clearing Blackwing Lair is not as exciting as it was in the first clear, maybe, or in the first few clears. It gets boring very fast. So either you push and you try to be faster and faster and do new tactics and push more, pull more, like go left side on the suppression room, or like do a new strat that you have seen in a speed run. That might be exciting. Or yeah, you do fun events outside, and we are just doing everything. We are doing everything. We are doing fun events. We have our guild tablet police. We are doing we are trying to adapt new tactics and clear the raids and faster and more smooth. So it's a lot of work, I can tell you. It's a lot of management work. Like I'm doing this a lot. I'm spending a lot of time online. I'm listening to people. I'm hearing their concerns. I'm trying my best to make everyone happy. But what I have learned, like managing 2 guilds, is that in the end, you can't make everyone happy.
Yeah.
For example, we changed our guild notes from Big Dick Daddy to uh, I am Frostspec, like Frostspec, and I am a herbalist and a tailor, for example. And that was a point where people had issues with as well. It's all,
Really? That was too
yeah,
much, man. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
crossing the line there, man.
yeah. I mean, it was on one point that, because it creates a more. I understand that it create like it's your unique note. It's whatever you want to call yourself. You could just call it yourself, whatever. Um, on the other hand, I think the issue was not really the notes, but it was the way we implemented it. It was too fast, not really communicated and stuff like that. But it was because I never in a million years thought that it would be a problem. But it has been an issue. We solved the issue. Now you can name yourself Ricardo Milos fanboy in your officer note. You message me, I put that note in for you, and then you can look at your officer note.
Yeah.
I enabled that as well. So yeah,
Yeah, for me,
you have to somehow please everyone, and it's hard.
yeah, I know. Like for me, in my guild that I play with, we had a very distinct tabard going on.
Okay.
I never wore a tabard in any of my previous guild until we had this very distinct one, which was so silly that life was so ugly that we began to love it. Everybody in the guild, like it became the identity of the guild. Like we're the ones with the ugly tabard, and we just laughed at each other when we were raiding, and everybody wore it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
when it changed, fucking hell broke loose, man. Holy shit.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Uh,
The
I
wrath
can imagine, but
targeted to the Guildmaster then. I mean,
oof,
he
yeah.
just disconnected from the Discord, like, oh, so you guys are fighting. Bye bye.
Yeah, and I understand the guy. I completely understand you, Guildmaster, man. Sometimes, like, as a GM or even as an officer or class rep, leader, sorry, you are getting bombarded by messages. Like, I
Yeah,
think people don't really know how much people message you. Just right now, I mean, we've been talking for 2 hours.
yeah.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people messaging me in Discord.
Holy shit, you're like an
Just in the
influencer.
2 hours. Yeah, but I don't get paid for it, sadly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Bloodfang
yeah, but it's
influencer
it's
number
a
one,
lot.
man.
No, it's really it's a lot, and um, I think people underestimate how much work it is to run a guild. So I have immense respect for everyone in a leading position in a guild. It's you don't really gain anything. The only thing you gain is like drama,
Yeah,
to be honest. Like if you as a leader, if you make a decision, some people will always say, why, what the fuck are you doing, why are you doing this? If you as a class rep, if you give loot to someone over the other, you're going to get drama, and you don't gain anything. Like I as a GM, I can't, I'm not handling the guild bank, for example, okay? Because I don't, from the get-go, I have two other people that I trust 100%, and they handle the guild bank, because I never wanted to be that kind of GM that has control. Like I'm not shitting on the people who do it this way, but I personally just didn't want to be a GM that has also control over the guild bank, because you never know what happens. I could get mad as fuck because some, like, the guild could turn completely against me, and I could be brought to the point, or make the decision myself, that I say, okay, I'm going to transfer. I'm just going to get the guild bank with me. That has happened to guilds before, and um, I'm not going to take that risk at all. Like that's why I don't I wouldn't be the person, and I know some people in the guild would disagree. I'm not the kind of person to do that stuff, but the risk is always there. The risk, if you give the power to one guy, like you give all the gold, all the consumable, everything you gather to one guy, you always run the risk of the guy abusing it. And I
yes,
just didn't want to take that risk in the first place, or that people even have the assumption, or they can just think that I would use Guildbank money for myself. So I gave that away, and some other people are handling that. But yeah, it's still like it's a lot. You have to delegate as a GM a lot, and that's hard. Like I'm struggling with delegating stuff myself. And you have to do it though, otherwise you're gonna get burned out a lot, because it's really it's crazy. It's crazy how much stuff you have to handle in every small aspect of the game. Like insane. Like if someone wants to buy dust from the guild bank, they're messaging you. If uh, the dog shit on the carpet, and they are 2 minutes late for the, you never know.
well, Nuke, we're approaching 2 hours now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I warned you.
it's about twice the time I expected. Like, yeah, I thought maybe I can keep this conversation going for a while, but it feels like I haven't said too much, to be honest.
Hey, I told you though, right? I warned
Yeah,
you.
yeah, you did, and I guess you have a lot to say. But
I'm just open. Like I have nothing to hide, and if people have questions, I'm just gonna answer as honestly as I can.
yeah, yeah, and I'm very glad that you came here. I think
Yeah, thank you.
I think I expected more of a drama or uh, internet community style of a conversation. So I'm a bit surprised, like how wholesome it went or it turned out.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry about that.
No, you don't have to be. It was just, but I think it might turn out to be like this. Like when you isolate a person in 101, they're gonna turn out to be like quite a decent guy. And
Yeah,
once,
I hope that I'm a decent guy if I'm not isolated as well. But hey, try to get Figura next. Maybe you get a bit more drama.
I don't know. Maybe I have to practice more before I kind of bring him here and grill him. But we'll see. I mean,
No, you're doing great. Like the guy is awesome as well. Like just I would really recommend getting him in, and um you can, yeah, like you can message me if you want to have names of people from the story. Like you can also listen to another point of view. That's always good to have as well. Like I of course have my point of view from the stories. Maybe you can get other people from the same story and you can get their point of view as well, and then yeah, you
yeah,
have more like eagle eye view of on things.
yeah. From what I heard, Light has quit the game, but
Hmm.
perhaps Balsar would be a good guy to talk to.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe he's up for it. I I I would hope so. Like, think it would be a great thing to have him on. Um, Maybe you can get Light. Maybe you can get some others. If you are interested in talking to anyone, like you can also talk to people from my guild as well. If you're interested in that. Um,
yeah. I
and
mean, the Danatarian is he's gonna end up here eventually. That's gonna
yeah,
happen.
I think so too. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure of it.
That's bound to happen. That's
Of
one
course.
of the reasons I created the podcast to have him
Hey, hey. Okay. Now they are kind of friendly, but try what like 2 months ago you should have gotten. Should have done this and gotten Figure and Antenna together in a podcast, like for 5 minutes. Just go ham and then separate them again.
Do you mean
That
that
would have been
the beef is over?
I think so. Like I think, I mean, beef. There was some drama, some like emote stuff, whatever. A new Discord was created and harassment here and however, like there are two sides of the story. I understand why the new Discord was created, and it has gotten way more wholesome. Like the people are talking to each other now. Are still people that hate each other, that are despelling and killing each other, but it hasn't been as toxic as it used to be in that
Yeah,
Bloodfang
you
Discord.
know, a couple of weeks ago, in just general chat on the Bloodfang Discord, Donatarian and Figurin were having a wholesome conversation with each other.
Yes,
It was
yes, I
so
saw that.
fucking weird.
Yes, and me and Seralis as well, the Weep God.
Holy
We
shit.
we were we were agreeing on stuff as well, and that shouldn't happen. For sure not, because weeps get out.
Yeah, fuck weeps.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they belong in their basement, their mom's
Yeah.
basement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how I would want to end the podcast.
yeah,
Weeps get
exactly.
out. Okay,
Fuck weeps.
please.
24?
34.
24.
Yeah, nice. Yes, man. Yes.
Fuck
Yes!
yes. That was nice.
Oh,
That's very good.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna.
Are all fucking insane.
Holy shit.
Hey,
Woo! Hey, guys, man. Oh, I love you guys.
I'm putting